Welcome to the GCN Tech Clinic, where you send in your questions and hopefully I can help answer them so you can get riding or fix that annoying little niggle of a problem. So let's crack on then, shall we, with the first question this week. That comes in from Samir Kasim, who says, "Hi John, I need some help. I have a GT grade carbon with some tubeless wheels and I want to go tubeless. Is there any continental cyclocross or gravel tyres that can be converted to tubeless? The tyres they were thinking about are some cyclocross speed or the cyclocross king. Great show, thanks for the help." Right, Samir, I like your idea of thinking there because the tubeless setups are pretty good indeed. Now, unfortunately for you, those tyres are not tubeless compatible because the bead of the actual tyre isn't designed to work with a tubeless setup, so it's no can do, I'm afraid. Now, before people at home start commenting and writing, you can do a ghetto tubeless hack setup. You can, but like I say, it's not designed for it, and the consequences of a failing tyre could be, quite frankly, disastrous, terrifying, not to mention extremely dangerous. So simply, Samir, don't do it. Don't try it. Next up, we've got a question from Jack Ford, who says he's just got himself some new wheels, and when they get out of the saddle, it sounds like the wheels are rubbing on the frame. They were wondering whether there was a lack of grease on the quick releases and the contact point between the dropouts and the quick releases too. So that rubbing sound, I very much doubt it's actually coming from the quick releases because they tend to make a bit of a clicking sound rather than a rubbing. So a couple of quick things to do is make sure you're not using tyres that are too wide for your frames or brake calipers clearances. So have a look and make sure that basically the tyre's not touching either the inside of the chainstays or also the underside of the actual brake caliper too. Failing that, have a check as well to make sure that your pads of your brakes are not set too close to the rim, because when you're climbing or putting a lot of effort through, the wheel or the frame can tend to flex a little bit and in turn giving you that annoying rubbing sound. So just have a look at those two, but it never hurts indeed, like you say, to put a little bit of grease on the quick release skewer as well as on the inside of the dropouts where the wheel sits in case you get a click. But as for that rubbing sound, I'm pretty sure your tyres may be touching somewhere, so just have a look, particularly like I say if you're using a tyre which is possibly too wide than what the actual frame or brake caliper is designed for. Now, Bernardo Dime, he's got a tyre question for me. So, can they fit a 23 or 25mm tyre on a cyclocross bike that's currently fitted with 33mm tyres? And what inner tubes can they use? Can they use the existing one for a 33mm tyre? That's a good question, this, because in the past, cyclocross riders and bikes, they used 28 to 30mm tyres and they were fitted onto standard road wheels. So providing that your wheels don't have super wide internal measurements, then yeah, it's absolutely fine. So just bear that in mind. As for the inner tube selection, yeah, you will be able to get that existing tube inside of the tyre and the rim, but it could well be an absolute struggle and pain, and it's not going to be perfect if it's anything wider than a 18 to 25mm tube. If you do try it, use lots of talcum powder because that's your friend. It's ever so slippery and it's going to help, you know, basically try and get it in there a little bit easier, but really you want to use proper inner tubes for the job. Now, Propo 90, they've got themselves a clicky problem, which nobody likes. So they've got an issue with what they think is their crankset. Every time they spin it around, it clicks. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's not every time, is it, Propo? Anyway, it comes and goes, but most of the time it happens. They feel like they've tried everything. Right, okay, Propo, you need to make sure that everything is clean so there's no dirt or grime or grit in between any of the interfaces on your chainset and bottom bracket. So take it all apart, give it a good clean up, and then reassemble using either grease, anti-seize or thread lock where needed or necessary. And hopefully that's going to eradicate the problem. Failing that, and this is something which can happen and sometimes people don't actually spot or know where it's coming from. It can be your front derailleur gear cable has slightly come through and basically it's clicking on the crank each time you pedal around. And of course, depending on where your front derailleur is in the movement, so if you're on the little ring, maybe it's not going to be clicking. On the big ring, maybe it will. So have a good look at that. Failing that, put the bike in a work stand or certainly get it off the ground and slowly, very slowly pedal it forwards or backwards and actually look to make sure that nothing is rubbing or touching anywhere, because that could be giving you that annoying click. Next up is a question from Santi Babo Panmani, who asks, I plan to upgrade my group set to Shimano 105 Di2. Firstly, Santi Babo, that doesn't exist yet, so I do know what you're getting at there. You want to go Di2, so it's fine. I went to my local shop and asked them. They said I need a specific frame for Di2. Do I really need a specific frame for Di2? Right, Santi Babo, going to Di2, great move. I've never ever looked back on it. And the good news is you don't need a specific frame for the job, because there's actually some rubber plastic covers that you can attach over the electrical wires of the Di2, and then they simply self-adhesively attach to the underside of the frame, the chainstay, and any of those different tubes where the cable's going to rub underneath. Now, as for batteries, yeah, you could go internal, but like you say, that would then require a Di2 ready frame. So you can get a water bottle cage mounted battery. So it's simply quite a long piece of metal that goes underneath one of your bottle cages, and then the battery and assembly just mounts onto there and you're good to go. Good luck with that one, Santi Babo. Next up is a question from Urk Vida that's particularly relevant for this time of year because we are in the middle of the Tour de France. So they ask, I've never seen a pro use a spare bike from Mavic or Shimano Neutral Service. Are they even necessary, or are they present on a race just for sponsorship reasons? Right, so yes, they do use them, and most famously was stage 12 of the 2016 Tour de France, where Chris Froome actually took to one because he had a crash. Don't know if you remember this, but his right-hand seat stay actually got a crack in it. I think it was his right-hand seat stay. So he actually took to one of those Mavic bikes and then carried on riding before his own team car got to him so that he could carry on his own bike. And then back in 2010, Jens Vogt, he actually finished the stage on one of those bikes. I remember him saying something like it was like riding on a child's bike because it was the wrong size for him. Anyway, they are used, and the reason you don't commonly see it is because generally the riders on them will be a rider who's in isolation, so likely they don't have a team car anywhere around them. So the camera crew, they're not normally around either. But believe me, a few times in each Tour de France or any major race, there is a rider who will end up riding on one of those neutral service bikes. So if you go to a race, keep a close eye out because you never know, and they're quite easy to spot as well. Next up, a question from Simon Morrissey, who says they tried to remove the cassette from their Fulcrum Racing Zeros, and the cassette is gouged into the free hub body, and now they can't remove all the sprockets, as there are burrs where the cassette has dug in. Any thoughts why this has happened? Right, Simon. Well, those free hub bodies, generally, they're made of a softer material than your sprockets. So to keep weight down, really, because a steel free hub body is going to weigh a lot. So those tougher material sprockets, normally made out of steel, they wear slightly into those free hub bodies when you're kicking out the watts, which I'm sure you are. So as you're turning the cranks and the cassette, basically it is beginning to slowly indent in there, but it's never going to go all the way through, or certainly I've never seen that. As for trying to remove them, well, what you could do is get yourself a flathead screwdriver and insert it in between the sprockets. Make sure that the sprocket you're trying to remove is not attached to another sprocket, because some sprockets come on like 3 or 2 stuck together. So put it in there and gently try and twist that screwdriver like you're trying to undo it or tighten it, and you should be able to slowly prise it away from the other sprockets. Failing that, get yourself a blunt object, so not a screwdriver really, because that could well give a little bit of damage to the rear side of the sprocket, but from the non-drive side, put a blunt object through and then gently tap it with a hammer, and hopefully that'll actually force it off of the free hub body. Now, to remove those gouges or indentations, you can gently file them away, but don't go overboard, because otherwise you could well damage the splines of the free hub body. So just be very gentle with that. Now, Victor Choi, they've got themselves a cassette problem. I was wondering if you have a fix for me, Victor asks. When I'm in my easiest gear, the 28 tooth, and in the smallest chain ring, and when I back pedal, the chain drops down 5 gears. The group set is brand new and has been adjusted properly. I took it to a local shop, but they don't know why it drops down a few gears. It only happens in the easiest gear. Right then, Victor, it does in fact sound like an issue with your chain line, but without seeing the actual bike, it's hard to certainly diagnose what the problem could be. Also, make sure that the chain's okay, there's no stiff links in it whatsoever, because sometimes on those extreme sprockets, that's where something like that really gets noticed. But ultimately, Victor, and I don't want to sound like I'm passing off the question. Why do you want to backpedal? You only go forwards if you pedal forwards, so there we are. But I do understand the frustration because you want the bike to be working perfectly, you know, either way it's going. But it could well be that chain line, like I said. Good luck, Victor. Okay, final question this week is from Charles Fitzpatrick, who asks, how do I know when rims have gone past safe to use? Good question on this one, Charles. Right, grab yourself something flat, so a really good ruler, and then get yourself a section of the braking surface, and then from top to bottom of that section, just hold the ruler against it. And what you want to make sure is that that rim is as flat as possible against the ruler. If it's showing signs of wear, so anything, you know, more than a fraction of a millimetre or any concaving of the rim, then it's likely that that rim is going to need replacing. Also have a really good look too, because when rims do become very thin, they do start to crack. It's happened to me in the past, and it's not something that's ideal, because after all, those wheels are doing a pretty important job for you on your bicycle rides. Now, importantly as well to remember is that some aluminium rims actually have tiny little pinhead indentations in the braking surface, and they're designed to essentially disappear or become one with the rest of the braking surface when you've finally worn out that braking surface and it's time for a new rim. But like I say, that's only on some aluminium rims out there. So if you don't see them, don't panic and think, oh no, I need to go out and buy new wheels straight away. Pop along to your local bike shop if in doubt and get them to have a look. Right, I do hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the GCN Tech Clinic, where we do our very best to answer your technical problems. If you've got one for me, leave it in the comment section down below using the hashtag on screen right now, and hopefully I'll be able to answer it for you so you can go out on your bike and keep smashing out those watts. Now, do remember to like and share this video with your friends too. Give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to check out the GCN shop, where we've got a whole heap of goodies just for you. And now, for 2 more great videos, click down here for loads of cool new tech from Eurobike.